So I'm going to start with introductions, so the students know who's here exactly. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask some questions based on those that were provided to me, and then at the end we'll leave some time for students to ask questions of individuals before we close out. So we'll start with Sean. You want to introduce yourself and who you work for and how long you've been in the industry?
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Rock. I'm a graduate Purdue University in forestry. I've been in the industry for a little over 11 years, and I'm here as an arborist rep in the Bartlett Tree Expert Office in Indianapolis. As my role, it's basically is sales on the eastern half of Indianapolis and kind of the suburban areas as well.
I like the Purdue flag in the back there. That's awesome.
Guilty. That's my office. Yeah, so I'm Tyler Hershinger. Some of you may know me. Hi, Tate. But same principal, arborist representative here with Bartlett. This is coming up on my 4th year with Bartlett specifically. So time goes pretty quick. Graduate of Purdue as well. Same responsibilities as Sean here. Just different territory, different clients, other duties, equipment maintenance and then whatnot. There's some other duties on top of that, but pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Tyler. Bill, you want to go next?
Yeah, you guys hear me all right? So I'm coming to you live and direct from a U-Haul van because today is a day that we're giving away trees at the park. So just so you don't think I'm fooling you, here's the park out the window. So I'm at Garfield Park right now, and this tree giveaway just ended just now. So I wanted to make sure to be part of this. So I'm right here in the truck. It's nice and warm. There's no wind. So, but I'm Bill Kinchis. I'm the manager of urban forestry for DPW, so Public Works, and been here since 2013 and worked at City of Terre Haute, doing urban forestry 2008 to 2010. So roughly 15 years of experience, I guess. Is that right? Well, 10 years, I guess, total.
Close enough. Forestry guys aren't good at math.
Somewhere in there. It's double digits at this point. So, you quit counting after a while.
True.
But yeah, so manager of urban forestry and just kind of overseeing the program. We have a small team, but we have a lot of responsibility. And, we're mostly focused with the little resources we have. It's mostly risk management. We're not very well-rounded. We wish we were, but we do the best we can. And we try to have fun like days like today where we just spread a little joy and try to remember that spring is around the corner.
Until tomorrow, right?
Right.
Thanks, Bill. Matt, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, Matt Hogarth. I'm the owner of Higher Ground Tree Care, and we're out of just outside or in the suburbs of South Bend, Indiana, northern Indiana. And we're a complete tree care company doing mostly residential, but some commercial. And so we do everything from remove big, technically difficult trees with cranes all the way to a lot of specialized pruning, soil work and root pruning and disease mitigation. But the only thing we don't do is plant trees. And so we're a small company, we're growing, and we're just passionate about tree care.
Thank you, Matt. We'll go with Team Flint. We'll start with Aaron.
Hi, Aaron Flint, Davie Resource Group. I'm Urban Forestry Team Lead. Been working with Davie Resource Group for 15 years. I'm a 2005 winner, or I guess 2004 December grad. So yeah, so I'm responsible for promoting urban forestry programs throughout Indiana, getting them in line, getting the municipalities in line with municipal forestry practices, procedures, necessary management.
Thank you. Cody?
I'm Cody Flint. I am a contract coordinator with AES Indiana, formerly Indianapolis Power and Light. I manage the contracts for our distribution trimming, our transmission trimming, and our capital projects, as well as I am the, well, I guess now one of two drone pilots for us. So I do inspections on transmission towers and distribution tower or poles. I oversee 3 different tree trimming contractors, and we also have 2 other members of the team that are both contract coordinators that oversee the notification and customer service parts.
So you're our lone representative for utility. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Mr. Carter.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm probably the senior member on this panel with 37 years of experience in the industry. I started out as a municipal forester for the city of Indianapolis, did that for 10 years. Moved on then to sales arborist for Bartlett Tree Experts, did that for 26.5 years. And now I'm a branch manager at Save a Tree in the Carmel, Indiana office. I would caution all the students to take everything I say with perspective, because I was not a student of Purdue. I was not even a college educated person when I got into the industry. So I was just frankly afraid of debt without equity. So I chose to get out of school and go straight to the workplace. And so I do fully support college education. I sent my children on to college. Each of them had a year at Purdue, in fact, until they decided what their major was going to be. And then they moved in different directions. But nevertheless, I fully support college educations. And I just have a little bit different take on things because I wasn't so blessed to participate, especially in an institution like Purdue. So with that, I'm done.
It's good to have that perspective. You've been very successful, Rick. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stephanie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Miller. I'm the Regional Urban Forester with the Ohio Division of Forestry. And I cover a 19 county area in Northwest Ohio, just south of Toledo. And I help communities on anything urban forestry, anywhere from helping to develop their local laws to management planning, to just looking at that tree they don't know what to do with, organizing tree commissions. I was evaluating grant applications before I got on tonight. So the neat thing about my job is I get to do a little bit of everything, and every community is different, and we help them find ways to do urban forestry that works for them, giant cities down to tiny little villages. So thanks for having me tonight.
Sure. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, Ben, you're up.
Excellent. If I'm echoey, I'm in my neighbor's condo that he recently emptied because I got kids at home. So this is really the only safe place for me, other than maybe my basement. My name is Ben Rentz. I'm with Wachtel Tree Science. I am one of the owners at the company. Recently became an owner as of January of this year. So it's been a 5-year transition process. If I was to say what Wachtel Tree Science is all about, is about tree preservation and taking care of trees, keeping them healthy and beautiful. With tree preservation goes with our plant healthcare department. We are very strong in plant healthcare, and I'll say a premier plant healthcare company in southeastern Wisconsin. But again, we do all aspects of tree care. I'll echo Rick's comment there about being in debt. I went to UW Stevens Point for forestry management. In about my junior year, I recognized that there weren't many jobs in forestry management, or at least they were very hard to get into. And I added urban forestry as a major because I didn't want to be in debt. And I've been with Wachtel for 18 years, so right out of school. So thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you, Ben. Now you still have Purdue alum in your company?
John Gall, yeah, he's still working, and the beard's still growing, and man, that guy's amazing. If anybody doesn't know John Gall, he's a legend.
Yeah, he's quite long in the tooth. He was the first graduate of Harvey's urban forestry class. He was in that first class, so he's got quite a legacy. So awesome. All right, is there anybody that I'm missing here? I think that's it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ask some questions. Again, I appreciate the students that provided those. There was a few that, as I mentioned with the panelists earlier, there were several that were overlapping. I want to first start with the one or a couple of them that were directed to individuals, and that was primarily Stephanie. And they were asking about how would you go about looking for urban forestry positions in Ohio, and what positions are available for graduating seniors.
Well, as far as finding urban forestry positions in Ohio, it depends on if you're looking for municipalities or with the state. The state of Ohio does have internships, which is a great way to get some experience. We also do higher entry-level positions and stuff like that with the DNR. One of the nice things about Purdue's program is that you'll still have your graduating foresters. And so being able to do traditional forestry and urban forestry will help you be marketable with Ohio DNR, Division of Forestry. Ohio also has two companies headquartered here, one Davie and ACRT, that do a lot of consulting work. And it's a great way to cut your teeth coming right out of school, get experience doing management. And so, in fact, every single one of us regional urban foresters with the state of Ohio worked for one of those two companies to get our experience early in our career. And so, and anywhere from urban forest management. I did urban forest management and utility management, Cody. So you'll be glad to hear that. And it's a good way to get experience right out of school.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any of the students want to ask for any elaboration from Stephanie on those while we have her attention? Okay. All right, this is kind of an open question for anyone who wants to chime in. The primary one that was overlapping here from a few students was what classes would you recommend to take as far as preparing yourself for a better opportunity for employment? Ben, go ahead.
A better opportunity for employment. That's a great question. For going to Purdue, or you're going to learn a lot of the skills, or at least the knowledge from that a four-year school is going to offer. You know, coming out of four-year school myself, I didn't have any of the technical skills, which is fine. But obviously, you would be more marketable if you had those. I'm going to talk about soft skills and being able to work on those pieces. So if you have electives that you have an opportunity to fill in a communication role, or you know, I heard when I came on, being able to clear and speak clearly. A long day, right? So finding those opportunities to be able to take those soft skill classes would, I think, benefit any student, because you're going to present yourself better to an employer and be able to sell yourself a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd like to back up what Ben said. When I was there, one of the requirements was supervision. I'm not sure if that's still a requirement, but
It's not a requirement anymore, but it is
okay.
an elective.
That is one of the most valuable classes I took, because it builds on those communication skills and how to get people to do the things you need them to do. In urban forestry, probably one of the other best class I took was, and I'm not sure if they still have it, it's Woody Plants of Eastern North America, Harrison Flint's old class. And you learn what trees are going to work where in any urban environment. And I'll tell you what, it's the reason why I am a plant selection specialist, is because of that class. And very few urban foresters have good plant selection skills. So if they offer that still, take it. It's a great one.
Well, plant ID is certainly important. I've had several people have their European mountain ash treated for emerald ash borer, and that's a bad thing to happen.
And it's beyond our dendro class because our urban soils aren't natural. And so being able to parse that out, which that class offered and hopefully still does, is wonderful. Will serve you well.
I'll definitely back that tree ID. That's what we do for urban forestry all the time. But also I would say policy, understanding state and city code policy, creation, implementation, that sort of thing, from an urban forestry consultant perspective. And then also forest measurementation. I use that a ton coming right out of it. Tree inventories, measuring tree right of way, measuring, just tree structure, tree character. And then what was the other one? Also, this is something new, with how trees are benefiting our urban areas. Anything how, trees related to urban infrastructure, green infrastructure, gray infrastructure, that sort of thing. So having an understanding of how trees can be involved in that perspective.
And depending on what path you want to go in, certainly we haven't stated the obvious. Take Lindsay's class, right? If you're looking to get in the trees and learn to climb and begin in that, and I'll also jump all over the tree ID one. It really shortens the learning curve if you're going to go into PhD route with your career. It shortens the learning curve if you can ID the trees quickly. So if you already know that coming in, and all we have to train on is the products we use, the mixing rates, those sorts of things, then that certainly helps get you up and running faster. So that's a great value. And then I'll also reiterate what they've said. Communication skills are paramount, and leadership skills. If you were in 4-H and scouting, you already know at a very young age how important leadership is. So leadership in every role is important, not just as a branch manager, but also as a ground person. If you have leadership skills, you take accountability for things. And if you take accountability for things, you're going to grow anywhere you go. So I couldn't stress that enough. Leadership, if you have any sorts of leadership classes that you can take, I would highly encourage that as well.
I'm also going to echo what Ben said, being able to talk with people. We used to say, Rick was my boss for 14 years. And we used to kind of say that tree work's the easy part, dealing with people is the hard part. Everybody can go out, you work together as a team. One person's weakness on a tree crew may be someone else's strength. But when it comes to dealing with people, it was always one of those things where, hey, send Johnny over there to talk to the homeowner because he's the one that, will schmooze them the best and calm them down, or if someone's worried or something. So you always had that one kind of key person, but if you can be that key person, it makes a big difference when you're talking to customers or just, anybody that's coming up concerned about what's going on.
Yeah, we used to always jokingly say, if it weren't for the employees and the clients, this would be a great job, right? And that'd be a true forester, right? Spend the day in the woods.
Well, I've had a lot of people say that they got into forestry so they don't have to deal with people. Boy, are you wrong. All right, great. Anybody else want to add to that we haven't covered something?
I did forget GIS.
Oh, yeah. We can't escape that anymore.
One piece that it's not really classroom related, but life related. Your summer positions, go for something that you want that's in your field. If I'm looking at a resume and I see, nothing wrong with working at a service industry, that's great. I know you got client service, that's awesome. But, do I know that you want to be in this field because you haven't spent a summer doing it? Somebody could get into maybe urban forestry and realize, oh, this isn't exactly what I was hoping it would be. And then 4 years, you spent 4 years learning the craft. And, I think, spend your summer in the field you want to get into.
Yeah,
And I think I'd like to add to that, there's nothing wrong with drag and brush for a summer.
No.
And nothing in urban forestry is really below any of us. It really builds humility in us and that kind of stuff too.
Now, I can probably speak for everybody on this call. We've done it all from dragon brush to dragon hoses to all of that. So, yeah. Well, I've got some fun questions I'd like to ask. And I think these are important, especially for I think several seniors here. First of all, from those of you who are hiring and interviewing, what impresses you the most when you're looking to hire someone? So the most, that one thing, if 3 people are all equal.
For me, it would be the one that seems hungry and has some passion.
So just being able to identify that enthusiasm.
Yeah, I would
because
agree.
you know a lot of people will show up to an interview and it's like they're choosing this profession, but they give off the vibe that they're doing a job and what are you going to do for me? And there's a lack of humility on some level and they're not even aware of it. And when you go into probably any of our worlds, but I'll speak for myself, you know, doing commercial arboriculture, it's like you're here to serve others first, whether it be your company, your supervisor, but especially the customer, and you're always being watched. And so back to your previous you know, question that ties into this actually is that you got to demonstrate to me in the interview process early on that you can lead yourself. And so if I've got 3 candidates in front of me and they all have a degree in urban forestry, it's like, great, I'm assuming that you've got the basics of tree biology and soil science and tree ID and all that down, or I wouldn't be talking to you. So I want someone that's got a little bit of zip in their step. They're early for the interview and they've got some giddy up.
Tyler, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I was just going to echo pretty much what Matt said. It's just people that are eager and willing, you know, I don't bring like fake enthusiasm, but urban forestry is kind of one of those things where dipping your toes in it is the best solution. You know, not to poke fun at you now, but you gave me a little grief before we started this about, you know, maybe I wasn't going to end up in urban forestry, but here I am. So it's just coming with a pep in your step, like Matt said, and just being, you know, eager to get at it. You know, having the classes and everything is great. But like you said, we've all dragged brush, we've all dragged the hose. Some days are rough, but you move up from there. So it's just a growing stature.
It's process for sure.
For me, it's not GPA necessarily, although that can be an indication of dedication and commitment and work ethic. But it's more along the lines of somebody who's prepared. You come to the interview prepared, you're comfortable. You don't try to control the interview or speak over the interviewer. And you can articulate your knowledge, you can articulate your experience, and you can make that relevant to what it is that, you know, you've looked ahead at the company who you want to work for, and you can make your experience relevant to what they do. And so, and don't be nervous, just be calm, be yourself, and remember that this isn't just a company interviewing you. This is you interviewing a company. It has to be a good fit for both you and the company if you're looking for a long-term happy career.
Exactly. That's a good point.
I will add, and that for most of us who went to Purdue, we grew up in Indiana, and Purdue was just always there. But when you leave Indiana and you say, oh, I graduated from Purdue, people go, oh. So with that degree too, it's a very highly respected degree in forestry. You're getting a good education, and so That's why I don't think the GPA matters quite so much. If you get that degree from Purdue, it carries a lot of weight.
I'm glad because my GPA wasn't very good. All right, anybody else? I've got a couple really good ones here coming up. All right. I'm going to ask probably the most fun when I think of a whole list here, and I'm not sure who sent this, but what is the worst thing someone could do in an interview?
I jokingly said in the response to that, Lindsay, don't pass gas. But that was a joke. And it was seriously,
apropos.
that wouldn't be good probably, but no, seriously, just don't be nervous. That's the worst thing you could do, I think, is to be nervous from my perspective.
So, yeah, I mean, for starters, they'll be late, whatnot, but just like we were talking earlier, have the eagerness and enthusiasm. I think we did an interview one time, and about halfway through it, someone kind of said, I don't really want to get back into tree work. And at that point, it was kind of dead in the water. Okay, are you just looking for a job, or are you looking for a career where you can grow and expand on your boundaries? So, at that point, it's how much interest we
This
really
interview's over,
right?
right?
Obviously, yeah, we didn't cut it off, but you're not doing yourself any favors by just putting that out there pretty blatantly.
Anybody else have some good ones there?
Yeah, just be sincere. I would say don't try to. I mean, obviously you want to talk yourself up and be your own cheerleader as much as you can, but don't go overboard. Don't if you got to deliver what you say that you can do too, right? And so you just want to be genuine, be sincere, because same thing, when you're dealing with the customer base or the like for myself, the citizens of the city, we want to know that if you're, we hope that in something as crucial as an interview that you're going to be as sincere and accurate, and and it's okay to say, well, I'm not sure, or you don't have to try to embellish. It's not like just that one interview is the only thing that is consequential to your employment, right? So you want to start off on a good foot and make sure that you're kind of saying, yeah, I'd like to work on this, or that's not really one of my strengths, but I feel like I really do well over here. And so even practicing, right? If you're gonna just grab somebody who can listen, right, and just see what they think of the interview, what they think of what you're saying, about just make up some questions and just have I think visualizing what you're going to say and being sincere about it really pays off a lot.
Had one a person in an interview one time cuss. That was kind of a quick deal breaker for a couple people. And then another one is, when you're in the industry for a little while, if you're leaving your current employer, don't badmouth them, because you never quite know who knows who, because this is a big industry, but we're also a close net industry.
Oh,
so if I said, man, I used to work for that Andy Callahan guy and he was such a big jerk.
Well, he was right.
they may have been right, but they might not have known that Sean is his brother-in-law.
Right. Yeah.
And if Sean's sitting in there in the meeting, he's going to go, wait a minute, you're bad mouthing somebody I know. If you have a difference with somebody, just be like, we didn't see eye to eye, it didn't work out, and we move on, and you just leave it there. It really was, it's a professional meeting, so try not to be nervous. Try to be confident without being cocky, because that was the other thing. We've had people come in and do interviews. I wrote the book on this. No. Dr. Smiley didn't do it. He didn't write the tree risk thing. I wrote it. And it's like, whoa, you're throwing some big weight around there. So just try to be as confident without cocky, and don't badmouth people or cuss. That's the quickest way to turn something off.
Well, not only that, to dovetail onto that, obviously it's pragmatic to not do it, but what goes through my mind when somebody does that is, they're either not very mature, or I forgot what I was going to say, but it's just, or here was the other one. The other thing is that I don't want to hire somebody where their mindset is the glass is half full rather than half empty. If you're a half empty kind of guy, and I've gotten rid of people like that before, because they end up being a drain on the rest of the team. You know, you work in teams a lot, or one person walks into the work situation and it changes the whole dynamic. And so, you know, in a person, I want to hire someone that's mature for their age and where they're at, because they may have to work by themselves out in the field and be trusted. I got to know they're honest and ethical. Or if I'm going to put them in a team situation on a really big job, you know, I want to know that they're not going to pull the whole team down because they're negative.
Good points.
Yeah, so negative can affect safety. But even just those common courtesies, enunciating and not checking your cell phone while you're in an interview, that's probably not a good idea. But it does happen.
All right, next question is, and I think this is a good one and helpful. We always hear about how important experience is when applying for jobs. We alluded to this earlier, but how directly related does that experience need to be? So, you know, if you're applying, if you've worked in urban forestry, but you're going to veg management or back and forth, you know, they're connected, but somewhat disconnected. So how does, or the biggest one I hear is a lot of people are in Hort in LA and they're wanting to get in urban forestry, and they've worked planting trees for landscape companies and design, but they like the urban forestry part. So how related does that experience need to be impactful in that interview and job attainment process?
I'm going to jump in first, Lindsay, because I'm having connectivity issues.
Okay.
So not necessarily, it doesn't have to be directly related. Again, I think values and ethics and your ability to apply your knowledge and what you have, that transcends all industries and all businesses. Seriously, there's Sir Richard Branson of Virgin Airlines has a ton of excellent quotes. But I think one of my favorites is he says, train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they don't want to. And, you know, some companies are very good at that. The company I'm with now, I feel, is very good at that. But that's the key is the training is available, right? You don't have, if you're a landscape architect or a Hort major, you can learn how to be an arborist. You just need the right people to train you to do that. And I would suggest, if you don't already have, get a mentor who can help guide you through the process. Even now, before you start with any company, have somebody who can help guide you in the direction you want to go and stay on top of what you're doing as you go.
That's really good advice. Having that trusted counselor or mentor that you can bounce questions on outside of your family, I think is important too. So that's really good comment, Rick.
I also think having you would have a different perspective potentially. You could bring a different perspective into that role. You know, someone that's outside of the norm. And I'll use Cody as my example. Residential management going into utility, you know, total different, game there, I'll have him speak to that, but, you know, bring in your previous experience into a role that you're wanting to be in, and adjusting and learning and being able to see what the goal is of that duty of responsibility you're going into, and being eager to learn that new aspect, and bringing what you previously have.
If you can show your expertise in that field to the people you're interviewing and get that message across, that will speak volumes of, a lot of things, your attitude, your ability to communicate, and everything else. They may, you may be going like, I made the transition from residential commercial tree care to the utility industry. It's kind of one of those things that doesn't happen a whole lot, but when I did the interview, I was professional, I was confident, and I said, hey, I don't have any experience. I can't tell you a transformer from a voltage capacitor from a relay bank, but I can tell you where I've been and the things I've learned and demonstrate that knowledge moving forward that, hey, if you give me the ability, I'll learn. And I have a good attitude about it, and I'm excited, and I want to do better. It makes a huge difference. In the reply I sent to you, Lindsay, I showcased Andy in it. He went from being a foreman at Bartlett to being a timber buyer at Pike Lumber to being a project manager with Wright Tree Service to now being a area manager for a natural resources company. I mean, he's made the switch twice and across two different realms of urban forestry.
Right.
So if you've got a good, confident background and the ability to talk, you can back it up, your knowledge up with that. Yeah, there's no problem making that jump. You may have to travel a little bit, you know, if you want to live in the same county, that may be a problem. But, you know, if you're willing to move around, man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, mobility and flexibility there, I think, is huge. It's a next question, and I think this is another good one. I think this came from Zach, actually, and it ties into another question that I received. It's relative to forestry skills and the urban forestry industry. The question is, when entering the employment field, what is the difference between a graduate who studied forestry and a graduate who studied forestry but also had the urban forestry minor? So I think the question is, does a forestry skills translate to urban forestry? I know Stephanie's chomping at the bit there.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We have this discussion all the time over here in Ohio. And it's my contention that urban foresters that have a traditional forestry background usually make the best urban foresters. We're taught in forestry to gather data, to process it, to prioritize, to manage, to budget. All of those things that make urban forestry unique, from landscape architecture and horticulture, makes that transition very natural for a traditionally trained forester. But there are things that are missing. One of the big things is understanding urban soils and the knowing how the landscape plants, and also then the function within working within a public government setting. So there's a few gaps, but usually those are things that can be filled in through a class or two somewhere, or being involved in International Society of Arboriculture and stuff like that. So that's a very natural transition, and a lot of foresters do that, and it's happening more and more and more. And as foresters age, it gets harder to walk around in the woods. We fall down a lot, and so sometimes urban forestry becomes a little nicer place to work on our bodies too. So
I remember a meeting that you came to campus a while back, Stephanie, and you were very concerned about, or even urban forestry students not having silviculture skills. So then you feel like they are very much important and applied to urban forestry.
absolutely, silviculture, because we're trying to mimic a forest ecosystem in an urban environment. And without that, it is evident. And the other piece to that is if you don't understand where trees are supposed to grow in the forest, how can you apply that in the urban forest too? I mean, when you're working with people and they don't even understand forest succession, why can't I get this to grow? I mean, it doesn't reflect well. The other piece to that is that we are oftentimes the only foresters that urban dwellers meet in their whole lives. And it's really important to have people who are called foresters know what traditional forestry is too, because we get a lot of questions about fire and about climate change and all these kinds of things, and to be able to represent and answer those responsibly. Some of the answers I have heard from non-foresters are abhorrent and completely misrepresent the industry. and it's awful. And so I feel very strongly, and my colleagues here in Ohio feel very strongly about that. We really need to bringing the forestry back into urban forestry, or keeping it there. So
I agree.
I'll get off my soapbox, Nancy.
Anybody else have a comment on the forestry into urban forestry?
Mine would be similar to what I've already said, and that is that education helps immensely, right? If you can already focus on where you want to go with the classes and the coursework you do, that's great. But the education only works if it's applied. Attitude to me wins over aptitude every single time. But if you have both in conjunction with one another, you could be unstoppable. I've found in my experience that the biggest enemy of excellence is mediocrity. So if you do this and do that and you dilute yourself over 20 different areas, but you really want to succeed in one, you probably never will. You'll be a jack of all trades and master of none. But yeah, if you've got the focus right now to go after what you want, do it.
All right. I got another one here, and this was another top one that kind of overlapped with a few others. What are the few top skills that you feel are most important or most looked at in applicants?
Pretty right off the bat. I mean, communication. That's standard.
I knew somebody's going to say that right away.
Yeah, I mean, it's the given one. I mean, whether or not, working with your teammates in the office or field, urban forestry revolves around people. It's being on people's properties, it's being in their wooded lots, whatever it may be. And that's the other thing I think we struggle with is, as a scientist kind of field, is translating what we look at as an issue into, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like, making that translation to a client and helping them understand why it is that way, and, not making it sound so technical, because once you get technical, you lose them. Most people don't care, don't want to know, or aren't going to understand the things that we study and practice. So
I'll say writing. We do a lot of management plan writing, whether it be tree management program or master plan writing. So being able to, and any of this even translates to just general consultant. If you're going to be a consulting arborist that works with tree risk or tree appraisal, being able to express your observations and write your recommendation for whatever that application, whatever that task you're doing. We often here in this office, because I also work with ecological services here with Resource Group, we often look at the cover letter. If you can't write a clean, concise cover letter, your intent, your purpose for applying for the job, and even having the right company name on your cover letter, we're looking for stuff, we're things of that nature. So
I think for me, a couple of big ones, I mean, they go hand in hand with what's already said, but if you're a problem solver, or you need to be a problem solver, because you could be very knowledgeable, but a lot of times you're working by yourself, or even if you're working with some other people, and you need to have everything figured out for you all the time, that makes you less valuable than somebody that's a problem solver. Now there's limits to that, because you don't want to always think you can always figure it out and never seek help. But I think it's important to have that attitude of, I'm going to figure this out, problem solver, and so forth. So I see that, and it doesn't matter. And I see that across the board, because in my company, we have college educated and non-college educated alike. And whether someone's 25 or 45, when they come to work for us, if they can't problem solve and figure some things out that they should be able to do, that's a detriment versus the opposite. if you're a problem solver and you can communicate well, all these other things we're talking about, you're going to be a rock star, and that's probably going to be your fastest track to the next raise. And what goes hand in hand with that is the mindset of being a lifelong learner. I shouldn't have to, as an employer, always suggest to you or make you go after that next bit of knowledge or learn that kit or show interest in a curriculum or something. It's like, and that goes back to my earlier comment about being hungry. Because one of the things that's awesome about a career in arboriculture, regardless of the pathway you take, is you're never done learning. And it's,
I don't know if it's so much, talk about abilities, talk about loyalty. But I heard a great saying, the best ability you can have is availability. If you don't show up, you got to be there for all these great things to happen for you. But, the dependability, and there's that loyalty aspect. So I understand that, yeah, you spent 2 years at a job. I at least understand that you've got you've invested yourself. When we talk about skills, my initial thought goes to, a lot of the technical skills. Can I climb a tree? Can I run equipment and things like that? I look at an applicant, if they have that skill, that's just a bonus, in my opinion. If you don't have those skills, I wouldn't be worried about it at all. You're selling yourself again in all those other areas that everybody else has talked about. And if you have those on top of it, like I said, you're a rock star, sure.
High level things, but really organization is like, that really disappoints me when people are not organized, and I just, like, you can see it. And I worked in a restaurant recently too. It's like, you will fail if you're not organized, because it's look at what we do in forestry. It's a lot about information, right? But I think honestly, if you're like, when I interact with the citizen, or like I've never worked in the private sector of forestry, but I would think if I were a client, I would want to see people writing some stuff down and like nod convince me that this is sinking in and that you're making note of what it is that I'm saying. I don't want to have to repeat it. And later on, I'm going to expect, like, hey, I mentioned that, I said that, why did that get forgotten? So being organized is really important. It's everything from like, how do you know which emails you need to get onto first? Which ones, can you get to later that day? Or, keeping track of it and keeping track of your schedule.
Yeah, and to add to that, if you have an opportunity to take the Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that's a great way to start your career. You're going to learn skills that are I use them every day.
That's on my reading list that I supply to students. Yeah.
To add to that, next to the Bible, that is the most important book I've ever read, and I still go back to that.
So I'm going to start with Tyler and Sean. And just real quick answers so we don't spend a lot of time on it, but what is the one thing you like most about your career and the one thing you like least?
I guess the given would be just flexibility. Every day is a different kind of adventure. Am I going to go look at a 100-foot, lightning struck hickory, which is what I did 2 days ago, or am I looking at a 3-foot crabapple? Both are relative to the client, of the same importance. So every day is a little bit different. And like I said, just flexibility, you kind of run your own schedule. There's really a lot of independence with it. And least, oh boy, the clients themselves, I would never say that, but
no, I understand that.
Sometimes people are just difficult, whether they're not translating what they want to you properly, or they just have outrageous expectations. It's part of the job. So
Sure.
Yeah, or my favorite, they think they know more than you, and that's probably the most struggle. It's like, okay, well, why'd you call me then? So
my favorite thing about the job is being outside all day and seeing new things all the time. I hate being stuck in an office. And that's what I really like about the industry, is that we're outside, we're usually doing new things. Every day is a little bit different, and I really do enjoy that. Things I dislike about the job is just the, all the emails and, you know, the phone calls, the messages. It's just, there's so many different ways that people can get a hold of you now. And sometimes it's hard to just focus on what you're doing because you're getting, you know, bombarded by questions or, you know, emails or texts or phone calls or messages, stuff like that. And so sometimes if you let that stuff pile up, then, you know, that's the worst thing that you can do. And just staying on top of that is really key, I think.
They don't stop coming, do they?
Yeah, they don't stop coming. And that's probably the hardest part, you know, it's just keeping on top of that stuff.
Bill, best and worst.
Similar thing with the, you know, obviously where I'm at right here, this is an awesome opportunity. You know, I get to go to places like Eagle Creek Park or, you know, work with Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, that, you know, they do great things with outreach in the community and great partnerships. So the partnerships are cool, and like hosting things, you know, like we had the Partners Community Forestry event came to our town. And then the worst thing is probably, I mean, it's there's no way around the fact that you just have limitations when you're in the municipal sector. Unfortunately, you know, with the revenue situation, especially with COVID right now, we had our budget slashed pretty seriously. Just, you know, if that's the worst thing that we have to deal with, that's just, you know, how it goes, and
Yeah.
it's no big deal.
Matt, best and worst.
Boy, that's tough. Initially, my knee jerk was going to be, you know, every day is a different adventure, but my best, what I'm going to say is people. So it's really rewarding as the owner of a small business to roll up on a crew pruning a big majestic tree. And I don't need to micromanage anything. I happen to be in the area because I might have been doing a consultation at another property, and seeing everybody work safely, work like a fine oiled machine. Everybody has a smile because everybody wants to be there. And so, seeing the guys have breakthroughs and grow both personally and professionally is so rewarding. And so that really fuels my tank. Probably the worst, I struggle a little bit a couple of times a year with burnout because I just go, and I'm still learning how to have boundaries and pace myself like a marathon runner.
Thank you. Ben?
I'm going to start with the worst. I'm going to say, you know, I got into the industry for, you know, I like the climbing, I like being outdoors, but now I'm in an office and working my way to get to be an owner operator. So, you know, trying to focus my days in so maybe I can cap them off on Monday and Fridays to be in production. Best part, I'm going to echo with Matt, the people. You know, I started with the climbing and the plant healthcare side, but now I really enjoy watching people grow and develop and gain those new skills and seeing the steps they've taken and how, you know, you've contributed to get them there. And then their passion's just growing as they're learning and doing more and understanding the industry more. And, you know, to see those steps taken, I think that's one of the most rewarding things we can have as a teacher or in this profession, in my opinion.
Thank you. Aaron?
So for me, the best part is that I help with developing programs, help with communications of people, but for the trees, so just to be able to sit down with a tree board and discuss their troubles and trying to figure out where they want to go, what they can do. That's kind of an exciting thing for me. Also, just volunteering on programs. Stewardship is a big part, a big core value for Davie. So, volunteering for programs like Pendleton had a recovery tree planting for the tornado that went through in, I think it was 2019. And then there's other volunteer programs that I get to be involved with. So kind of being the leader for urban forestry community programs, that's the exciting part of what I get to do. And then I'm going to go against kind of a little bit there's struggles. I'm currently working on the management of employees right now. That's a new skill that I'm doing. So sorry, Ben, sorry, Matt. There are those great days, great employees that you're just like, oh, I put so much effort, or we put so much effort in helping them get there, and they're succeeding. And but it is a struggle. And the struggle would be, I'm reading a book. If you guys have, this is kind of also for the companies and organizations that are here too, called The Alliance for Managing Talent in the Networking Age. And it's interesting because they put it in the respect of managing employees related to duties of roles, duties of responsibility. As I help employees develop their career path here with Davey, focusing on that I'm reimagining, re-envisioning, or like trying to, focus in that area, sort of thing. So anyway, that would be my current struggle, is just employee management in that respect, but everything else is great.
Cody?
The thing I like the most is the challenge. It seems like every day I've got something new popping up. Even if I've got a schedule for that day, it seems like something still pops up. I got to run out and do a drone flight. I got to go talk with a customer because, they're unhappy with the way a tree looks or something like that. Anything like that. It's the challenge that, kind of keeps you trying to grow. The downside of it is I've worked myself out of the field. I get to go out and do that less and less because I've started taking on other things. So it's kind of like how Ben put it, he's an owner operator. He'd love to get out there and climb some, but he's got all these other things pulling him in different directions that doesn't allow him to get out and do it. That's my thing. It's like, I don't get that time to get back out there in the field. And there's some days where I'm just like, man, I really would have loved to gone out and grabbed a spray rig today and filled it full of fertilizer and just, stuck a FERT probe in the ground all day or help the crew load run the chipper or something.
All right, with that, Rick, your best and worst?
It's not going to be original. Everybody else is alluding to the same thing. So
I didn't figure you would.
What I like the most is dealing with awesome people and trees. This industry tends to draw, at least at the professional level, a lot of high quality characters and individuals. Everyone on this panel I regard that way. There are a few, right, at the low end of the spectrum that come in to the industry with lower ethics, but they're the definite minority, and the professionalism has grown in the last 37 years that I've been in it incredibly. So I just love working with all the people in the industry. I love working with good employees and clients that genuinely appreciate our service. And then there's the converse, right? There's the opposite, though. And the thing I like the least is dealing with difficult people. There are those few, but they're few. And then, as Ben and Cody both said, not enough time with the trees now. I'm a manager, and I'm spending more. Oh, I get to itching. I'm sitting in the office 5 days a week, and I'm looking for reasons to go. I should go do a crew audit today. Yeah, I got to find a reason to get out and go do something, because I'm just going nuts in the office, ordering materials or processing training and the things that need to be done, things that are very important. But yeah, I love the trees, and that's what I loved the most when I got into the business, and I still love it.
Good answer. Thank you, Rick. All right, Stephanie, bring us home.
All right, and Aaron Hamilton's my hometown, by the way. But yeah, again, my favorite thing, I think, just natural resources people and people in the industry are just good people. I love that. And my least favorite thing is that Americans in general just don't value urban forest management like we should. Yeah, and the political will isn't there in a lot of American cities to invest in it, and that's frustrating.
All right, with that, I'm going to open up the floor real quickly to students for.
Okay, I was just wondering, when you guys started in the industry, what would you say was kind of your biggest challenge right when you were getting started, or shocker when you got started?
For me as a woman, finding good outdoor gear that fit. I think it's gotten better. And the price of good boots.
I think part of it was just underestimating the amount of interaction that you have with people. I think I was in that mindset like forestry, I'm not going to deal with anyone ever again. I'll be wandering through the woods, and that's just not reality. So unfortunately, but it was definitely a little bit of a sticker shock to just see how much interaction there is, whether that's email, phone call, face to face, et cetera, et cetera.
Putting in the time when you're first started, right? You know, it may not be an 8-hour job. You know, for me, it wasn't a shock. I went into my inventory arborist position knowing that I would be literally on the road, potentially in a totally different state for 11 months out of the year. That was not a shock to me. But when a company says you will travel and it will be overnight stays and it will be, you know, for a week, they're not telling a lie. Having the it goes up flexibility, availability, understanding the responsibility or the need for that position. So that is a struggle that we have in new hires, young staff, field crew is that life balance type of thing of the job that's at hand and wanting to be home. We totally understand that, but that it is a struggle.
Hey, Lindsay, I got a follow up to that.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't get such a shock when I started because I think part of it was, and Rick, don't get too big headed over this, but I had a lot of good mentors that surrounded me and kind of helped going through, those early stages. And hey, you come out of college, you know a lot, but you definitely don't know all of it. And there's a lot more to learn out there. So keep yourself grounded, keep a level head, and kind of follow these, I wouldn't even say instructions, but guidelines. And they let me fail. I messed up a lot. There's plenty of times that something that went sideways on us. There wasn't, you do that again and you're fired. It's no, hold on. Hey, let's take a step back. Let's see where there was a problem and how to, kind of move on and grow from there. So that helps take a lot of that sting out of, hey, new person on the crew and whatnot. I quickly found out I wasn't going to be a top climber. That was not going to be in the cards. But they said, hey, you do have some ability over here. Why don't we help, encourage you on that side of thing?
Cody, no big head here because I'm a part-time audio engineer too, and the worship team will always come up and tell me, "Great job on the audio today." I said, "You know what? The best I can do is mess it up. It's if a good signal goes in, a good signal comes out. Dude, you were a good signal going in. So there was, all I could do is stay out of your way and give you what tools. But if you got something good to work with like you, it's easy." And while I'm talking, my biggest challenge when I first started, my very first week in the industry, I was in a climbing class and I never professionally climbed before, but I was in a climbing class that was taught by Davey. And I thought I was in pretty good shape before, but I found out just how quickly, just how unconditioned I was. But still, it came along pretty quick. Within a few weeks, I was pretty much the only one left out of that class that was still climbing trees, and I went on to compete in the IAA and the ISA, and I did pretty well. But just not knowing how physically demanding certain aspects of the job could be, I guess that was my big challenge. But it's something easy to overcome.
Are there any clubs that really stand out to you when you're looking at like an applicant? Any clubs in college?
Clubs, extracurricular things that make a difference, as far as like what a standout sort of thing.
PSSA.
Yeah, Gretchen, I don't think you could go wrong with any type of professional affiliation that has something outside bigger than Purdue or any organ or any school academic institution you're with.
Yeah, and if you can go to the conference there in Indiana, go. I mean, I met people back then that led to my first job out of school, and I still do Society of American Foresters too. I do both, but every single young person that is in SAF in Ohio, if they've come to that SAF meeting, when they interview with somebody says, oh yeah, didn't we see you at, it's a small world. And so go to those meetings.
I think this question also ties back into the earlier, or where we started with the issue of resume. You know, and Lindsay, your point about every summer, if you're doing a summer job and it has nothing to do with what you're going to school for, that's kind of a red flag. So I would say equally important or more important than joining various clubs is, at least in the second half of your college experience, you should be getting a summer job or internship or something, getting your hands dirty in something related to what you're doing. And the opportunities are out there, because every employer has this one thing in common, that there's not enough warm bodies to help out in the summer. And so, and then the other thing is, if you can volunteer or do things that speak to the issue that you're in it to help people. So while you're, you know, during the school year or even in the summer, if you volunteer just a little bit, doing something like, I don't know, tutoring kids that are struggling at the local high school, or big brothers, big sisters, something like that. If you got some of that kind of stuff on your resume, I think that's equally important as joining this professional club or that.
Yeah, definitely, Matt. I agree to that. I was going to say you can't do much about it now, but you know, if you were involved in 4-H or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or FFA, you know, use that to your advantage. You know, there's definitely programs that they had there that can come across in your resume. But then also regarding, you know, putting some of your education to practice while you're in school, is definitely, you know, whether it be a 2-month job with Purdue, or you know, whether it be a summer job, you know, finding those work experiences while you're in school can help you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. And I sure appreciate it. And if I can help you out, please let me know. And again,